You bring to us the most significant thing that's going on the planet today, and we want to say to you, what if there is no solution to that? What if there is no end to things that you don't want? Where does that leave you? What if there is no end to the things that you do not want? Because that's the way it is. There is no end to the things that you do not want. Because the things that you do not want have to exist in the same atmosphere where the things that you do want are. So what if there is always going to be that end of the stick that you don't want? What if every subject that you pick up the stick of has wanted on one end and the absence of it on the other? What if there will always be plenty of what you do not want? What are you going to do? Focus on what you do want and let that be the basis of your life experience. That is the answer. And you don't have to wait for everybody else or anybody else to figure that out. That's a really important part in this. Because if you need them to figure it out before you can have peace, then you've put yourself in a place where you will never have freedom. You've got yourself locked into the end of the stick where you can't win. I'll be happy when everyone else is happy. And I'll feel safe when there are no more terrorists on the planet. I'll feel good, you think you say, when everybody agrees with me and everyone wants to live just like I do. Stop asking somebody else, anybody else, to do anything different so that you can feel better. Because none of them were born to please you. Not one of them. Not one of them. And those who have been standing on their head to please you have given you a distorted view of how it's supposed to work, you see. So stop terrorizing yourselves by disallowing the expansion that you've already achieved. Can you step back a little bit and see the perspective, the big picture? Can you feel the ongoingness of that which is you? Can you get a little whiff of the eternalness that is you? Just a little bit. Can you feel the view of source looking upon you? Not at you, not over you, looking with you. Can you feel the bigness of all of your moving parts? And can you feel the steady resonance of well-being that is at the basis of all of that? Can you feel the basis of love that we have all come from? And can you feel the steadiness of that never-ending stream? Can you feel the masses of those who are moving about in wellness, in consciousness, in communities, living in houses, eating food, in civilization, in what you don't even want to call civilization, but let's just feel the numbers, the sheer numbers in the billions of just the human species who is mostly living well-being. And now acknowledge that there are pieces of your day that don't go so well, but not mostly, and that there are some aspects of your community that are off kilter a little bit, but not mostly, and that there are pieces of the world that are not thriving, but not mostly, and just put it in perspective. And now step back even further and acknowledge the longevity that is you, the coming into a life experience and the coming to new awarenesses and new desires, and then another generation and another and another and another. And acknowledge the improvement in the thoughts that are turned to things that you can witness. Notice the improvement in this time-space reality and in the way the majority of you live. And just accept that well-being is not just a little more than the not well-being. It is so dominant, it is so pervasive, that it is borderline ridiculous for any of you to find some very small, minuscule aspect of something in comparison or in relationship and turn your attention to it. And notice that even though masses of you do that in an impersonal way through your media and through your televisions, that still you do not really disrupt things, because there are too many of you who are too connected with source energy, and source energy is too dominant, well-being is dominant. And so feel how unsettling and unnecessary and how really ridiculous it is to scrutinize your planet and find things to focus on, even in your own house or even in your own family or even in your own world, that you are using as your temporary right now excuse to cut yourself off from the receptive mode, which is the only thing that you ever want anyway. Your purpose is joy in the broad, general, only thing that matters sense. And you can't get off your path because you can't cease to exist ever. But you can be bogged down by the resistance on your path, or you can be, with clarity, navigating around it joyfully. Have you ever gone on a trip to some place that was open and wide? There was no contour to the land. There was no contour to the road. It was just straight and flat and same, miles and miles of nothing but miles and miles. So you know what that feels. And sometimes that's satisfying. We're not saying that it isn't, but then by comparison, have you ever been on a sweetly, blissfully, winding, curving, interesting road where around every bend there is a new vista, there's something else to see? You have to stay focused because the road requires your attention. And can you feel the satisfaction in there not being a straight line between where you are and where you want to be? In other words, there is interest in the maneuvering, in the managing, in the up and down and over and around and through. There's interest in the developing your skills and getting very good at it and acquiring equipment that handles it better and better. In the big old bus that weighed 60,000 pounds and was 45 feet long with a car behind it and so wide that they squeaked through toll booths with an inch on either side, straight, big, flat roads were really appreciated. But when Esther got in her little Audi R8, she wanted the mountain passes. She wanted to feel what that engine could do. She wanted that engine to have to give her all it had in order to maintain her 80 miles an hour going up a high mountain. In other words, you see what we're getting at? There's such interest in the contrast. If it's not frightening you, if Esther had been on that mountain path in that bus, there are switchbacks that say, if your vehicle is longer than 26 feet long, don't come down this road. And Esther would say, I hear you and I'm not coming. Because she knew what it was like, what it took to turn that bus. There were some roads, a road in Sedona. She so wanted to go up Oak Creek Canyon with that bus, but she knew better. There were turns that she could not make. But in the Audi, that's the road she wanted to be on. And so what we're saying to you is, as you prepare your equipment, as you gather your equipment, which is your vibrational prowess, and as you manage it and understand it, then you will feel invincible, which is on the opposite end of the stick of fearful. You will feel clarity, which is on the opposite end of the stick of confusion. And in that clarity and in that empowerment and that knowing, then the whole world is exciting to you. And we promise you, you won't be asking for the contrast to go away, because it isn't your problem. And your ability to navigate through all of it makes your life more interesting, you see. But in the beginning, most don't think that. They think, oh, if my friend would be easier, I would be having a better life. And we say, if you had only conditions around you that were exactly as you want them to be, you would have a boring life. You would have a static life. You would have a life of very little expansion, and your reason for being would be thwarted. Every single thing that you want, whether it's a material object or a state of being or a pile of money or an experience or a circumstance or an event or a relationship, every single thing you want is because you believe that you would feel better in having it. And what we want to say to you is, you would feel better in having a relationship with your own inner being. You would feel better being in the receptive mode. Don't ask the conditions of the world to need to change in order for you to feel better. You've got to get out of that conditional mode, because you can't control the conditions. And what's really, really interesting about it is that most of the conditions are good anyway. It's trying to control the little piddly conditions that you can't control that's keeping you out of the receptive mode, and then making you feel unsettled or making you feel paranoid or making you feel terrorized, you see. For no reason whatsoever, other than a lack of discipline in the way you focus, or maybe a lack of understanding that it's a vibrational world. But you're past that. You have no lack of understanding that this is a vibrational world. You know that, we know that, we know that you know that, and you know that we know that you know that. In other words, you know that this is a vibrational world, and you know that you have guidance within you, and you know when you're focused in a productive way, and you know when you're focused in an unproductive way. You know your guidance system is alive and well within you, you see. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would never again give anyone else the permission or the leeway or the latitude to be the reason that we don't feel good about anything. We would just keep acknowledging that I create my own reality, and I'm the attractor of my own reality, and I attract my reality by what I think about, and I could do a better job of thinking things that would serve me well, and then just set out to reach for thoughts that feel better and better and better and better and better. And when someone comes to you and says, ooh, what do you think about that happened there? If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say, I want to be a world citizen, and I want to get everything in perspective. And so I'm in the process of taking it all in. In other words, don't counter them. Don't push against them. Don't try to convince them that you're not thinking about that. Don't try to make them wrong for thinking about that. We're not trying to make you wrong for thinking about that. We're just wanting you to understand that every single time you focus in opposition to what's in your vortex, you will terrorize yourself a little bit. And there are some subjects that are bigger than others, like staying in your physical body, or like the people that you care about staying in their physical bodies. And we want you to understand that from your inner being's point of view, staying in your physical bodies is not of any value whatsoever, unless while you are in these physical bodies, you are tuned in to who you really are and what you're really wanting. This part that we were talking about between the vibration and the realization of an idea and the manifestation of it is much shorter today than ever before. And that is because the general basis of vibration has raised with more and more potential for satisfaction. It's only an unskilled vibrational navigator that wants it to slow down. Because the better you are at it, the more you will enjoy your involvement in it. The more skilled you are in your vibrational navigation, the more you thrill at the idea of it speeding up. And you see, it's a wonderful thing because, we've never said this before either. So you all, as a collective consciousness, are having these experiences, and those like you are deliberately raising your vibrations, and the new ones coming in are already at that high vibration. They are born into this environment at the highest vibration that any of you have ever accomplished. In other words, that's like the starting point. So as they meld in to this already higher vibration that you're all accomplishing, then there is less and less probability of them going to lower and slower vibrations, and since they're already there. And so that is the reason that the vibration of this time-space reality, it is rising, 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 rising. It serves you in two ways. When you're in sync with it, it's delicious. And when you're not, you know it. So you become more willing to accept that good that feels good is good. And that's really what's happening planetarily. That's what this movement is all about. That's the value that this platform has added value to the world in this significant way. More and more people are willing to accept the value of feeling good. And that sounds odd to those like you, but there are a whole lot of people that still believe, not as many of them, that still believe that if it feels good, it probably isn't. And that I should not selfishly serve myself. I should always be in service of others. And so they miss the whole point. They don't get into alignment, so they don't have any batteries in their contraption. And they're working really hard to make their contraption do something, but their contraption won't do anything because it's not powered, because they haven't taken the time to get into the receptive mode. These are really good times. These are, in fact, the best of times. They're also the worst of times, depending on whether you're in alignment or not. Yes.